Okay, so I kind of want to go ahead and get back into our coverage over, well, Nate Gray, better known as X-Man. And the reason why, because it's kind of like a new direction for him at this point in time in Marvel Comics. And let me explain. You see, when it came to Nate Gray, as we all know, he had a major role in the Onslaught crossover, where you had Onslaught go out of his way to grab Nate Gray, but to also grab Franklin Richards as well. Now, with the ending of that crossover now behind us, it's Nate Gray back on his own again. But when it came to Nate, when he had left the age of apocalypse reality and came over to the main Marvel universe, Homeboy was lost because this was a brand new reality that was completely different from his reality. And so for Nate, he was kind of learning everything at a very fast pace. But now with the Onslaught crossover now done, it's kind of like, okay, cool. What is Nate's role going to be in this new reality that he's technically stuck in? Because now at least he mostly understands what this world is like with the idea of mutants and humans. But as we get into the beginning of the storyline, we do pick up with a character known as Threnody. Now, when it comes to this character right here, she appeared earlier on in our coverage over the X-Men, right? And she has the ability to absorb the energy of people who are dying. Now, once she has absorbed that energy, she's then able to release that energy as a very powerful blast. And the problem was she wasn't really able to control that power. Now, thanks to Mr. Sinister, he found a way to technically help her to control her powers. Now, once he did that, as you all know, for Mr. Sinister, he technically owns you now. Now, you had her being able to escape. The problem was Sinister had sent the Marauders after her. Now, Nate Gray couldn't help her. And the reason why, because Nate Gray was dealing with the whole Onslaught crossover. Now, in reality, when they had arrived in New York, they were together, but she snuck away and got herself in more trouble. Now, when it came to her trying to deal with Marauders, she got saved by an unknown person. We were kind of left to figure out who in the world had saved her. And so when we jump into the opening pages of this storyline, we're learning who that person was. And that would be the Abomination. Now, for me personally, growing up, when it came to the Abomination, the only person I know who would fight against him would be the Hulk. And occasionally, like, other members of the Avengers. And that would be it. But when it comes to Abomination, he was the one who saved her when it came to her being chased down by, well, the Marauders. But we do learn here that there is some kind of connection between these two characters. But I kind of want to go ahead and switch back over to Nate Gray. And the reason why, because it's Nate Gray examining New York City, because he's truly amazed about the city. Because again, this does take place shortly after the whole idea of the Onslaught crossover. And so because of that, he's really amazed about the fact the city is being able to move on from the idea of being hit hard by Onslaught, but also losing their heroes, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, who are currently away right now because they're currently in the Heroes Reborn reality. But for Nate Gray, his main goal is to find his friend, Threnody. And so you do have Nate being able to, well, locate her, realizing that she's underground. But I kind of want to go ahead and switch over to, well, Abomination. Here's the reason why, because around this time in Marvel Comics, when it came to Abomination, you had Marvel trying to do something different with his character. And let me explain. You see, when it came to Abomination, he had his own group of people who lived in the sewers. Very similar to the Morlocks, but somewhat different. And let me explain, because the Morlocks were a group of people who were mutants who went into hiding in the tunnels. When it came to Abomination group, they're called the Forgotten. And there are superpower beings in his group, but it's a mixture of people who are humans, mutants, or possibly other kinds of people who all went into hiding and right now hiding out with Abomination. Now, when it comes to Threnody, she was part of this group in the past, but something happened in the past. And so it's Abomination telling her, like, you can't stay here. You gotta leave. And so while she's trying to leave and get some resources, she does grab this jacket. Now, apparently, this jacket is very special. It belonged to a guy known as Jimmy, one of the Forgottens who had died recently. And so she is attacked by a few people of the Forgotten. But then you have Nate Gray arrive. Now, right as soon as you have Nate Gray arrive, you have the Abomination begin to attack Nate Gray. And here's the reason why, because for Abomination, this is his territory. His main goal is to protect this area no matter what. And so, of course, he's right now very upset with Threnody. He's kind of like, look at you. You came back here after being gone for a long period of time, and now you brought some stranger here who's right now attacking the place. Now, for Threnody, what she does is try to distract Abomination long enough to allow Nate Gray to recover, which of course does not take that long. You have Nate Gray being able to bounce back just like that. And once he does bounce back, you have Nate being able to pin Abomination to the wall. Now, for the Abomination, he begins to warn Nate Gray, like, hey, listen, man, I don't know who you are, but I do know one thing. You can't trust her. And so this kind of begins the process of us learning, like, what is their past connection? What did Threnody do in the past to make Abomination hate her so much? And so we learn here that when it came to Threnody, when she was found by Abomination, he took her in and gave her food, gave her drinks, gave her a place to stay until she was able to fully recover. The problem was that there was an elderly couple nearby who was part of the Forgotten as well. And so when it came to the elderly couple, they were nearby her. When she woke up, she released her death energy, killing them off just like that. Let's not forget, when it came to Threnody, she had a hard time controlling her ability because she could feel when people were dying across the world. And she would absorb that death energy, but then release it. And so unfortunately, that elderly couple was killed off by her by mistake. But for Abomination, he felt like he was tricked by her to allow her to come and join them. And so ever since that day, he hated her. Now, for Nate Gray, he asked her like, hey, listen, did you do it on purpose? She says no. And he's kind of like, okay, cool. But for the Abomination, he can't get past that. He's kind of like, no, you can't trust her. And for Nate Gray, he kind of realized that because, again, in our last video for X-Men, really the Onslaught crossover, Mr. Sinister said, hey, she was playing the entire time. She was working for me, allowing you to get close to me to allow me the chance to grab you. But it's Nate Gray kind of saying like, you were kind of forced to do those things. Like, for example, the whole idea your power is not working properly, you had to go to him. But you also had to apologize for what you did to Abomination in the past. Now, for Abomination, he can't get past that, so he does attack Nate Gray. But the thing is, Nate Gray was able to play mind games on Abomination to make him think that he was beating down on Nate Gray, defeated Nate Gray, but Threnody got away. But in reality, none of that happened. And so now it's time for Nate and her to leave that place and kind of move on as a pair again. Now, let's not forget that we're picking up also with, well, Selene. And when it came to Selene, she has been going around recruiting different people for some unknown reason. Like, for example, Fitzroy, who comes from Bishop's future, but also Madeline Pryor. Now, we have no idea how in the world Madeline is currently alive again at this moment. But either way, for Madeline, she misses Nate Gray. She was with Nate Gray at the very beginning of this series, but she was taken away by Selene. And we have no idea why Selene took Madeline away. And for Madeline, she does not remember anything from her past really at this moment. And so this kind of leads us into the next chapter where we kind of get Nate Gray just hanging out with Threnody. And I kind of like this a lot because it's really more of him just trying to adjust to this reality. So currently right now, you do have the two characters at Washington State Park, if I remember correctly. But either way, while being at the park and them being able to build this bond with one another, they see this guy playing this card game with the public. Now, of course, it is a con game to get people's money. But you do have Nate Gray kind of remind us that he knows how to play card games from his old reality. So at first, you have Nate Gray just watching different people walk up and basically lose at the game. And matter of fact, every single time somebody makes the wrong move, he tells us like, that's a bad move. Nope, should have done that. Big mistake right there. But when it comes time for Nate Gray to play, Nate knows which card to choose. And technically over and over and over again, you have Nate Gray just beating this guy. And you have the guy say, you know what? Enough's enough. It's time for us to go ahead and pack up. Now for Nate, he also realized that there were some other people who were kind of involved in the whole con game. But either way, Nate Gray got it shut down. Now for Nate Gray, he kind of realized that this park is just full of different kinds of con people because he does see this palm reader. Now this palm reader is actually a college student right now. And when it comes to her being a college student, what she's doing is pretending to be a psychic as a way to collect money. But in reality, she's not a psychic. And so for Nate, he's kind of like, oh, I realize that you're faking it to earn money. Well, let me show you what a real psychic is like. And so you have Nate Gray reveal everything about her to the public to kind of show that he is a real psychic, but also you have Nate Gray showing off his skills by telling things about other people in the park as well. And so with Nate Gray doing that, you now have all these different people kind of wondering like, hey, can he help us out too? Like, can he tell us more about my girlfriend or like my job or like one of my best friends? And so you do have, Threnody trying to get all these different people to line up to have Nate Gray answer their questions, but Nate Gray pulls her away. Now, while they fly away, we do see that Madeline Pryor is there. And for Madeline, she's like, oh my God, it's Nate. And she has been wanting to see him for the longest time. But Nate Gray didn't realize that she was there. Now, while you have Madeline out there seeing Nate Gray, for Selene and Fitzroy, they're meeting up with, Tessa and of course, Sebastian Shaw. Now, we do have a Hellfire Club in America, and we did have a Hellfire Club in, London. But by this point in Marvel Comics, the Hellfire Club is kind of like in limbo. And so when it comes to Selene, what she wants to do is rebuild the inner circle to the Hellfire Club. And the main reason why? Because of Bastion. So it kind of shows that with Bastion kind of on the rise for Operation Zero Tolerance, you have everybody trying their best to get ready for that big major crossover between all the different X titles. And so you do have Sebastian kind of seem intrigued to make the new Hellfire Club. Now, the rest of this issue is really more of us just seeing Nate Gray hanging out with Threnody. Like, for example, they head over to the Rainbow Room at Rockefeller, and you do have me able to use Nate Gray abilities to pretend to be some like famous people. So of course, when they walk in, all these different people want to serve them. All these different people want to watch them. Like, it's Nate Gray really being able to spend some time with Threnody. And really, we're seeing this relationship bloom between the two characters. But while you do have the two characters being able to, dance and have fun, Nate Gray forgot that in this reality, humans are scared of mutants a whole lot. So he begins to float with her mid-air and everyone begins to freak out. And so you have Nate Gray leave. But while you do have Nate Gray leave, you do have him kind of head over to the top of the building. And it really shows that this is Nate Gray and also Threnody kind of being able to open up to one another. But you do have the book end on the note where they do kiss. And it's kind of like, okay, cool. Where can the storyline now go with these two characters being a couple for one another? Because let's not forget, Madeline Pryor is still out there, and Madeline was Nate Gray's first love interest in this reality. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see you all next time. Later.